The Chainsaw Man Reze movie was a huge success, and I was honestly disappointed. The movie looks like Chainsaw Man, but it doesn't feel like it. It's not surprising it was successful. It's full of sex appeal and bombastic action sequences, both of which are easy to market. What's harder to sell is what Chainsaw Man is best at being: a dark comedy. Whereas the movie couldn't decide if it wanted to be a melancholic doomed romance or a Michael Bay-esque spectacle action movie. In this video, I want to explain why the movie didn't work, how Chainsaw Man is best when focusing on comedy, and that despite the failure, I still want the anime to continue, as much of the best content is yet to come. The film had a split personality. From when Denji met Reze until the kiss scene, the movie felt like a rushed romance. They meet, flirt awkwardly, fall in love way too fast, and it's all wrapped up in the cliche kiss during the fireworks display. Then the movie abruptly shifts to action mode, and the fight sequence starts, and then it just doesn't stop. Any emotional investment is lost. There is no time for the tragic lovers turned enemies theme to hit. After some brief interludes with the other characters that didn't make much sense, such as Aki sacrificing some of his life force to save the femboy devil, the angel devil, the painfully long fight sequence ends with Reze and Denji being drowned. No one dies, and they end up washed up on the beach. We briefly return to romance movie mode, with some attempt at tragedy before the movie ends. Overall, a pretty disappointing experience. However, I don't want to make out like I hated everything about the movie. There were elements of the film that I really enjoyed. The very start and very end of the movie were the best parts. And that's because they featured Chainsaw Man's power couple. Scenes with Denji and Power are always great. They can't help but be themselves around each other, and their interactions are so raw and natural. The movie captured this dynamic perfectly, and though it was only brief, we got to see these characters acting effortlessly authentic together. Makima's scenes in the movie were also very good and tapped into the dark side of Chainsaw Man well, with the fear and mystery she inspires. The introductory scene of the mysterious Mohawk Man was also very intriguing and hinted to the darkness again, but ultimately went nowhere. You might see the problem though. None of the good stuff is related to what was supposed to be the core of this movie, Denji and Reze. One final thing I liked was the new art, as it felt more rough, unique, and closer to the art of the manga, which gives me hope for the series going forward. Given what I have said so far, you might be surprised that my thoughts on the Chainsaw Man franchise overall is much more positive, and the movie confirmed for me what its real strength is. Chainsaw Man is best as a dark comedy. The story contains some very dark themes, dark character narratives, as well as poignant character moments, but none of this precludes it from being a comedy. Chainsaw Man works best when it's being funny, and nowhere is this more evident than in the manga, where all elements work towards making it, at times, hilarious. Though there are beautiful standout pages that are carefully and intentionally detailed, overall the art itself is rough a lot of the time, giving the panels a raw but also comic strip-like vibe. This is particularly the case in dialogue exchanges between characters, when their faces will be in focus. They are often simplified and their expressions comically exaggerated. The characters speak in a brutal way, and they say insane things like it's completely normal, especially characters like Denji and Power. When combined with the exaggerated way characters react to things, This leads to very funny interactions. If you need proof of Chainsaw Man's comedy, I'll point you towards chapter 57, Suddenly, and the entire sequence of events that ultimately leads up to Kobene and Power driving Kobene's car, and the disastrous result. It might be the single funniest moment of any manga I've yet read, and the most I've laughed out loud, literally, at a printed page. Chainsaw Man's lore also doesn't take itself too seriously. The vague ideas proposed that how feared a particular abstract concept is correlates to how powerful its devil will be, such as the gun devil being powerful due to widespread fear of guns. But if this is the case, why is Chainsaw Man so powerful and the key to everything? Does the Chainsaw Man universe contain huge numbers of industrial accidents involving chainsaws, or frequent incidents involving chainsaw-wielding mass murderers? I suspect the mangaka Tatsuki Fujimoto isn't particularly interested in deep lore or coherent world building, at least as of Chainsaw Man Part 2 and the Academy Saga. The manga is still functional as a dark comedy, and I find myself laughing at its chapters even as the story loses some coherence. Chainsaw Man now functions as a parody of shonen manga, with its introduction of elements like the Church of Chainsaw Man. Fujimoto is capable of being serious, as those who have seen Look Back will know, and which I highly recommend as a movie. However, when it comes to his more recent work on Chainsaw Man, it feels to me like it has become his shark kick, the manga in Look Back that represents commercial viability over artistic integrity. This is not to say that I want the anime adaptation to end. As I previously mentioned, some of the funniest content is yet to come in the adaptation, but also some of the darkest and most emotionally charged moments. A season 2 of the anime finishing the adaptation of part 1 of Chainsaw Man would be very welcome. Any adaptation simply wouldn't be complete until I see Power behind the wheel of Kobene's car. Returning to the movie Chainsaw Man Reze, it is held back by having to adapt a weaker arc in the story, but a good adaptation would have been able to elevate the material. When the movie was released, I saw a lot of success and praise for it. However, more recently, I have been seeing some criticism echoing my own disappointment. For me, Chainsaw Man works best when it's not just chaotic and dark, but when it's also funny. This film forgot to be funny. But what do you think? Did you enjoy the film? Was I too harsh? Do I hold a grudge against Fujimoto for killing off Power? Let me know what you think. Cheers.